Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. And if you are watching for the first time, thanks for checking out my channel. Once again, there are many exciting new publications coming out in May. And of course, I want to read all of them, but I have narrowed down the list to 11 of the books that are kind of top of my list, the ones I'm looking most forward to checking out, and I will share those with you today. I think that I mentioned a couple weeks ago that in my area we were in an emergency break period for the pandemic, whatever that means. Then just before our postponed spring break, which was this past week, we're just finishing that, we went into a stay-at-home order for a minimum of a month, but schools were to still be opened. And now, as of this Monday coming, we are going into an extended stay-at-home order with further restrictions, including the schools being closed. So that means that I will be working from home again, starting next week. And I was reminded today by social media that 2 years ago, so pre-pandemic, at this point I had read about 17 or 18 books. And this year I am at 57 or 58 books due to the pandemic, which continues to increase my reading life, and it looks like that's not changing for a bit. So I am happy to know some of the new books that are coming out, some of the books to look forward to, and of course to tell you about them. As usual, the publishing dates that I have for these books are the Canadian or US publishing dates. They were accurate at the time I recorded this video, but they are subject to change. So if you're interested, please check with the publisher to make sure that the date hasn't changed. If you watch my channel, you know that I like to highlight Canadian literature, Canadian authors, and I like to do some diverse reading. And most of the books that I am going to share are from Canadian authors, but not all of them. There is a bit of diversity in this list. I have a couple of Black authors, Indigenous authors, and there are a number of genres. So the first two books I want to share, I don't have specific publishing dates. Even the publishers, when I went and looked, they just say May 2021. So I guess the dates are still top secret. The first is Radium Girl by Canadian author Sofi Papamarko. This is a collection of 12 short stories with themes of love, death, loneliness, and justice. There are a number of interesting characters included in this collection. Elda is the Radium Girl. There's Margie and Lou, who are teenaged conjoined twins. Rosie, who cruises funerals. And Pete is a predatory magician, and then there's more. It sounds like an interesting collection to me. The next novel that's being published in May 2021 is Light on a Part of the Field by Canadian author Kevin Holowack. This is a debut novel set in BC and Alberta in the 1960s and 70s. Ruth is a young artist and her husband is obsessive. Both of them are struck by lightning. The husband mysteriously disappears and Ruth moves to a farm. Her oldest daughter, Gail, becomes love-struck by a traveling stranger and she leaves with him. This story has themes of illness, including mental illness, artists, poverty, loss, reconciliation, and renewal. And these two women have to find ways to heal themselves and the many ways that they've hurt one another. On May 4th, I have 5 novels to share that are being published. First up is Hurricane Summer by Canadian actress Asha Bromfield. Some of you may recognize her. This is a coming-of-age YA novel about Tilla, who has spent her entire life trying to make her father love her. Her father leaves the family every 6 months and returns to his true home, which is the island of Jamaica. Tilla then has to spend the summer on the island with her father, and there is an impending hurricane, and Tilla discovers what life in Jamaica has always held for her father. So Tilla has to face the storms in her own life in the story that deals with classism, young love, and father-daughter dynamics. Next up is a psychological suspense thriller by Canadian author Catherine McKenzie. 6 Weeks to Live is about 48-year-old Jennifer Barnes, who has been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. She decides to spend the last of her days with her family until she realizes that she may have been poisoned a year earlier. So she's in the middle of this divorce and she suspects it's her ex-husband. Meanwhile, everyone in the family is dealing with her diagnosis differently, and not everyone believes her story about being poisoned. So is it all in her head, or is it someone else who wanted her dead? To me, this sounds like a tense read. Another thriller mystery on the list is Ruby Falls by American author Deborah Goodrich Royce. The story begins when Ruby is 6 years old and she's abandoned by her father in a cave in Tennessee. 20 years later, Ruby is now a soap opera star and is fired under suspicious circumstances. Ruby flees to Europe and marries a glamorous stranger named Orlando Montague. She and Orlando start afresh in LA, and she is cast in a dream role, the lead in a remake of Rebecca. And as she immerses herself in the role and story, Orlando's personality starts to change and ghosts of her past reemerge. And she fears that she might not be the only person in her marriage with a secret. So I like that this is connected to Rebecca, which I really enjoyed last year, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all ends up. The next book is on this list because I took a quiz, and this is the book that was suggested for me to read. It is a debut novel called The Son of the House by Nigerian-Canadian author Cheluchi Onyemelukwe Onuobia. I hope I said that correctly. This literary fiction novel follows the lives of two Nigerian women. Nwabulu is a housemaid and she dreams of becoming a typist. She is in love with a rich man's son. And Julie is an educated, privileged woman who lives on her own and is loved by a man that she has no intention of marrying. Both of these women are kidnapped and they're held captive together. And during this time, they share their life stories with each other. And this book is about class, strong, and resilient women. Next is Find You First by Canadian author Linwood Barclay. This is another thriller on the list. This one is about Miles Cookson, who is a tech millionaire. He has recently been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and there is a 50% chance that it can be passed on to the next generation. So this makes Miles reflect on his past because 2 decades ago, Miles was a sperm donor and he has kids. He has 9 of them. So they might be out to inherit his fortune, but they also might inherit something much worse. So as Miles begins to search for his children that he's never known, he meets Chloe Swanson, who is trying to find her biological father. Then a series of mysterious and terrifying events begin to happen. One by one, Miles' other potential heirs are vanishing, every trace of them wiped, like they never existed at all. So will Miles be able to find out what is happening before it's too late? Stephen King says that Find You First starts with a bang and ends with an even bigger one. And he also said that it's the best book of his career. So that's pretty high praise from Mr. King. Moving on to May 11th, I have one book to share. It's a rom-com by American author Emily Henry. Now, I've had her other novel, Beach Read, on my TBR forever, so I think that along with this new novel will be my beach reads for this summer. It's called People We Meet on Vacation. It's a friends to lovers story about Poppy and Alex. They are opposites, but they are also the best of friends. They live far apart, but every summer for the past 10 years, they take a week of vacation together. That is until 2 years ago when everything got ruined and they haven't spoken since. When Poppy finds herself in a rut, she convinces Alex to take one more vacation together, and now she has 1 week to fix everything. This just sounds like a fun, sweet, and adorable read. I also have one book being published on May 14th I want to share, and that is Gather on the Joy of Storytelling, and it's by Indigenous author Richard Van Camp. This is about the power of storytelling and its potential to transform both the speaker and the audience. Van Camp describes the elements required to make a story. He tells of the insights into how to read a room, how to capture the attention of listeners, how to create community through storytelling, and how to banish loneliness. And probably my favorite part is that he includes stories from elders whose wisdom has influenced him. Lastly, on May 18th, I have 2 novels to share with you. First is a cultural historical fiction novel by English author Edward Rutherfurd. If you know about Rutherfurd's work, then you know he writes these epic novels about cities and countries. I have read Sarum and New York by him, but he also has books on Russia, London, Paris, Ireland, and others. His newest one is China, and like his other novels, they are also an epic size. They're huge. China is no exception, coming in at almost 800 pages. His stories always follow multiple generations. China begins in 1839 at the dawn of the First Opium War, and follows Chinese history through Mao's Cultural Revolution and up to the present day. Rutherfurd chronicles the rising and falling fortunes of members of Chinese, British, and American families as they negotiate the tides of history. All of his books are superbly researched to portray history, society, and the traditions of the places that he's writing about. China also includes romance and adventure, heroines and scoundrels, grinding struggle, and incredible fortunes. So if you are looking for a book to really sink your teeth into, this might be one to check out. Last but certainly not least is Sufferance by Indigenous author, one of my faves, Thomas King. Sufferance is about Jeremiah Camp, who has the ability to look into the heart of humanity and see the patterns that create opportunities and profits for the rich and powerful. The problem is that he has seen what he hadn't expected to see and has come away from the abyss with no hope for himself or for the future. And because of this, he goes into hiding in a small town at an old residential school on an even smaller Indian reserve, with no phone, no internet, no television. He wants no connection with the outside world, and he feels safe here. Until his past comes calling. Asha Locken is head of the multinational consortium that Jeremiah left, and she wants him to formulate one more forecast. So before Jeremiah left, he had created a list of 12 names of billionaires. The problem is that the people on the list are dying at an alarming and very unnatural rate, and Asha Locken wants to know why. This novel is about the social and political consequences of the inequality created by privilege and power, and also what we might do about it. So I always look forward to King's novels, and I'm sure that this one will be another good one. So these are some of the new books coming out in May that I think have a lot of potential to be great. Hopefully there are some on the list that interest you. I will leave a list of all of the books and the authors that I mentioned in this video. I'll put that in the description box below. Please let me know if you are interested in any of these, or let me know if there are other books that you are anticipating that are coming out in May. I'd be happy to hear what you're looking forward to reading. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.